This is the Zen Supermom podcast. And in the episode today, we are going to dive into the question, well, how can I become a better parent for my kids without blaming my own parents for the mistakes they have done when I was growing up? Because now that you became a parent, you start seeing things from a different perspective and stuff starts to come up. You start remembering things, right? So let's dive in. Hi, I'm Elena Gomez Rodriguez, and I'm a mental fitness coach for busy moms. And this is the first podcast to help you increase your stress resistance so that you can become a Zen supermom and simply do it all while staying calm and happy. Welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. Hi, Supermom. And super dad, because I just got the feedback that there are actually lots of dads listening to this podcast as well. So everybody's welcome. Hi, I'm Elena Gomez Rodriguez, and I'm a mommy tantrum specialist and a founder and creator of the Zen Supermom method, which is where we help super busy super moms mainly, but super dads too, stop yelling at your kids, become calm enough even in stressful situations so that you can set healthy boundaries without yelling, and basically live happily ever after in your family. Well, a little bit joking, but not joking. That's what happens when you start on this journey. And the episode of today is again inspired by my clients because I see it left and right in the last couple of days, both from women who are interested in starting this work. Like they want to stop yelling at the kids. They already understand, well, actually, it's not about my kids and what they do in the moment. My anger gets so disproportionate. I overreact so much because it is linked to something in my past. But I had a happy childhood. I love my parents. And how painful is this going to be what you're doing? Am I going to suffer too much? And am I going to start hating my parents because they made mistakes? Because I don't want that. They were great. I know they made mistakes, but it was not their fault. I know they did their best. I know they did even better than their parents. So please help me. But at the same time, I'm scared of this, okay? So if that's you, if that's how you're feeling a little bit, then this episode is going to be for you because we're going to dive in. All right. So first of all, let me appreciate you and congratulate you, because most of the parents, they never even get to this point. They're still looking for parenting solutions out there to fix their kids because it's my child who's not behaving, and give me some manipulative techniques, 1, 2, 3 steps that I can easily memorize, and it will work like magic, and my kids will start listening to me the first time I ask. They will stop dragging their feet. They will jump out of bed happily on Monday mornings and there will be no issues. Yeah, right. But you're here because, we are not in the business of raising unicorns as parents, right? You were not a unicorn child either. You had your own personality. And sometimes that might have been too much for your parents, especially if they were not used to handling big emotions. So they might have repressed it sometimes. They might have done what most of our parents, our generations, their generation did. Kind of like, shut up, do as you're told, ideally, right now, because I have so much to do. And you, ungrateful child, you have it so much easier than I used to have and than my parents used to have. So just let's go. Right? And we know they meant well. Right? I told you, I had a happy childhood. I always thought I did. Because we had everything, me and my brother. We had a complete family. We had so many happy memories, so many, we had a happy life, really. I just cannot even think about what was not happy. The problem was that we had a momzilla, stressed out mom, who was doing exactly then what I started doing with my daughter. Hyperachieving, trying to do it all, everything, squeeze in, so much time pressure, so much stress. So little space for any unpredictable, uncontrollable things like kids and their moods and their needs. And that's where it all started. But When I started diving into this and healing my own developmental childhood trauma, because that's what it is, I didn't have any shock trauma. I didn't experience any abuse of any kind, sexual violence, like emotional, physical, none of this. That's a shock trauma. And by the way, there are ways to help heal that very quickly, efficiently as well. But what I realized when I started diving in was that I had a developmental trauma. That's where my uncontrollable anger was coming out at my daughter, right? When she was not cooperating, not listening, being too slow, being unreasonably clingy to me and asking my attention all the time as a little toddler. That's where I started losing it. And by complete coincidence, I found this trauma healing method that is focused on developmental trauma. And I realized, like, holy moly, I have a trauma. I didn't even know about it. That's where I started opening up the relationship with my mom, because I had to have a look at it. It didn't start with me. And I had to have a compassionate look at it was not even my mom's fault. It didn't start with her. And this is where the comfort is. If you're sitting there and if you're worried, well, how much is me doing this work and looking really into the childhood, opening that door, opening those memories, how much is it going to hurt me and how much is it going to hurt my parents? Because you realize it was not their fault. And this is still the better case scenario, by the way. Because then I'm working with lots of moms, and that is even more difficult, who are blaming the parents, and they feel like I cannot forgive them because there was more than just a developmental trauma happening. There was some shock trauma, like the parents seriously hurt them in so many ways, and they are not ready to forgive them. And then their question is the opposite. Do I have to forgive my parents in order to heal my anger? Okay. And there, the answer is, well, you do what you want to do at your own time. You don't have to forgive anybody for whatever happened. But the idea here is that you stop feeling angry at them, because that anger is still living inside of you. You're still poisoning your system by being angry at anybody who hurt you in the past. It's you who's paying the price. You want to feel angry to punish them for what they did to you, but it ends up punishing you. You're the one who's suffering from it, and your children, because that anger and resentment is spilling all over your kids now. It's showing up in your reactions when you cannot handle your kids' emotions, when they look like they are showing the same signs that of like your parents' behavior. So, going back to the case, the first one where you don't want to get upset with your parents, that's an easier one to do because you don't have to. Okay. One thing that helps all of the parents that I work with is taking a helicopter. Imagine as if you could, like right now, you're in the nitty-gritty of it, and you're even going back to your past, thinking about the moments, the memories in your childhood when you were hurt. Okay? Whenever you feel like you're too much, too deep in it, I would invite you to imagine like you're taking a helicopter up. And what you do is, did you see not only those moments and those memories and that timeline of your childhood, but you start seeing your entire life as a timeline. And before it started, there was the timeline of your parents. And before that started, there was the timeline of your grandparents. And you can see that line clearly. You can see how that pain that you went through, how it actually didn't even start with your parents. It goes even back. And most likely even backwards, right? Because I don't care in what region, what country, what continent you live in, the chances are wherever you grew up at and wherever your family line is coming from, in the last 2, 3, 4 generations, there has been a lot of violence. By the way, there's still a lot of violence in this world going on. And there are a lot of people getting hurt. Right? There are a lot of people who suffer, even from a physical pain, from the abuse. And there you can think about all the wars, all the economical crisis, like everything, all the racism and everything that's going on, because we are a mixed family. So I can feel that, I can see it in our family, how that translates now into the next generations. It's still there. You can see clearly once you take the helicopter up and see the generations. It is just something that keeps spilling over. It might be taking different shape or form from generation to generation, and that's what landed on your parents. And the stress of it, the inability to deal with it and to heal it. They might have been already doing better than their parents, than your grandparents, but there's still a part of it that spilled over to you. And now here you are trying to do better than your parents again, trying for your kids not to get affected by it, right? And if you're here listening to this podcast, it would mean that there are often times when you feel like you're failing, and I put it in air quotes because that is the voice of your inner critic, of your judge, who wants to beat you up for where you are not doing well enough for your judge or perfectionist in your head, okay? Can you start seeing the whole line? Did you take the helicopter up? This is the reason why you don't have to blame your parents for anything. Okay. Yes, they made mistakes, but it didn't start with them. The pain that they were feeling and they were not able to resolve and heal, yeah, you were the casualty of it. You saw the impact of it, the consequences. But your parents definitely didn't do it on purpose. For most of you, if you're listening, there's like 95% chance that your parents did really the best they could. They didn't hurt you on purpose. And even in the remaining 5% of that I have clients whose parents were like seriously screwed up, then there was a mental illness, like there was something really beyond their ability to cope with, okay? In either case, it was not your fault. It was their responsibility, but they didn't know better at that moment. Okay. And on top, when you look at it from your perspective today, they didn't have all the tools and possibilities to heal that you have today. Can you imagine? Like, I'm talking to you from a screen, like I'm talking into a camera right now. I have no idea who's listening in whatever country around the world at whatever time or day. I'm speaking English, which is not my native language. Like, my parents didn't have these even trauma healing methods. 30 years ago, there was just the talk therapy, the classic blah, 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 that does help in some occasions because at least you get it out of your system and they help you analyze and understand and look at it from different perspective. But they didn't have the trauma awareness. There was not so much research done on how trauma really works in our system and how to effectively heal it quickly. It was not existing. Your parents couldn't have done the work you are doing right now, okay? And this is the recognition of the improvement. Like, each generation is trying to do better than the previous one. Is it perfect? No. But do you want your kids to blame you one day and make you feel guilty for what not perfect mom you used to be and how screwed up they are? Or would you like to get some compassion and forgiveness from them as well, right? So this is why blaming anybody is not going to help it. However, you do need to be open in going there, in going into those memories if you have them, or going into those sensations in your body, because if you don't have conscious memories, you will be able to connect through the sensations in your body, right? And healing it there, okay? Because now coming to the second part of what I wanted to share with you, like lots of clients or potential clients, they come and say, I would love to get the help. I would love to become a calmer mom, but I'm afraid, first of all, does it mean I'll have to blame my parents? Is going to destroy my relationship with them? So that's what I just answered for them. No, you will just feel compassion for them for being human, perfectly imperfect, just like you are as a mom for your kids right now. But then the second concern is also like, is it going to hurt and how much? Okay. And for this, I just had such an interesting session with one of my clients yesterday night. And she was telling me, like, you know what? And it was already like 10:30 p.m. She was exhausted. And she did go through some pain during our session initially. And she was laughing at the end of the session. And she was telling me, you know what? The sessions with you, it feels like going to osteo in French, chiropractor or physiotherapist. You know, the person who like you have some physical pain in your body, but it's like this low level, but it's constant. It's like chronic pain. You feel something is off, but you postpone going to the osteo, going to the physio. You don't want to get the help. But one day, finally, it becomes so strong, you have to go. And what they do is that they go and put the finger exactly on the most sore, painful spot that you have. And it's like, ah! But then they move it. They either like crack the bones or they release the muscle or the tension in the nerve. And then it's just like, and there's melt, like it starts melting the pain. It starts melting away. So you're already leaving the session feeling like, yeah, I'm exhausted, but it starts releasing at that point. Okay. And she told me, like, that's how I feel in the sessions with you, that you do have the ability to very quickly find exactly where it's the most painful. But what happens is then there's such a huge release, and so much of that pain that I've been walking around with, it goes away. So it's like, it feels you can finally straighten up. You grow up, you grow taller, and you open up, and the breathing gets easier. And that's like the metaphor for your entire life, not just for your physical body and physical posture, but how you show up, in what energy, in what state do you show up with your kids, with your partner, at your work, everywhere throughout your life. Okay. So this would be like the metaphor for those of you who are scared, like, how much pain does it really take? And am I going to drown in it? Because if you're afraid of even unlocking and looking in that past for the fear of being hurt again, well, then this is my metaphor for you. Yes, you do feel a bit of the pain initially, because we need to go and grab exactly that point when it got created, so that you can start healing it. Okay, so I hope that metaphor helps you. For this particular client, and I want to finish the story because this was important also in the relationship with your parents that we are talking about today. How does you becoming a better parent for your kids, how does that impact the relationship with your own parents? For this particular client, and hi, I know you're listening and watching the podcast, so you see you're an inspiration. She was struggling with forgiving her parents because she saw clearly how that pain they caused her, how it screwed up her entire life, and how it's now still showing in her kids. So she had the opposite problem. She was not ready to forgive. So in the last few minutes of our session, and that's why it was so long yesterday, because I offered her this helicopter reframe for her to start seeing how it actually didn't even start with her parents. Her parents were not mean that they would be in it to intentionally hurt her, but there were generations before, right? And each generation always usually tries to do better than their parents, right? And this was for her such a huge aha moment and breakthrough point, because she then said, well, this is, as I kept explaining this picture, this visual that I had in my mind, she said, well, as I kept hearing to you, I was able to access that compassion for my dad the first time, because all of our sessions were about her mom, but then she realized, well, my dad was actually even worse. And this was the first time that she was able to unlock some compassion for him. And she realized that this was the point where she was still stuck. And that's why she was still being even angry with her children, because there were those parts of her that were still hurting so badly that whenever her kids looked like they are not listening, or whenever her partner, it felt like he was not helping enough. Again, the judge, the inner critic voice in her head that was like demanding and having very precise requirements how people around her should be. She realized that whenever she was getting into fight with her husband or with her children, there was still that part of her, that little girl who was hurt by her father. And because she was not able to forgive her father, she was still stuck with this anger and pain. And having this visual, this helicopter metaphor in her mind, what it did, it helped her unlock the compassion for her father. So I'll be very curious to hear from her in the coming 2-3 days, because it will have a ripple effect throughout her life, throughout all of her relationships. That's why I thought it was so powerful that I wanted to share it here with you, in case it would help you. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know, keep me posted. How is it that you are feeling about the relationship with your parents and with going back and cleaning up some of your past pain? Because if you've been to any of my events, if you've read any of my posts, you know that this is the key. If you want to become an anger-free, irritation-free, frustration and resentment-free parent, it all starts with you cleaning up whatever is still triggering it. Like whatever seeds of that anger and frustration and resentment you still have in your system, because it did not start with your children. I can guarantee you that. So let me appreciate you for your courage and for being brave enough to look into this, because this is really what's going on. You are a generational trauma breaker. Once you will be ready, I wanted to say, but you will never be ready for it. It will feel like a huge task, but it is completely doable with the right kind of support. You can break this line of pain and trauma that has been given from one generation to another. It can stop with you. And I appreciate you for having the courage for even considering that and considering the impact on your life and your children. Because this is what I do. This is what the Zen Supermom framework and system is doing. I position it and I invite moms to come to it, like for you to be able to stay calm and happy for you and for your kids. But what you cannot even see often at the beginning, what you see only once you get in and really start seeing the impact and start seeing the depth into which we are going and what a thorough cleanup we really do, then you start seeing this ripple effect that my clients are seeing after a few weeks and months. It's huge. You are stopping this pain that has been spilling over for generations. And this is why my mission, I feel it's so important in this world. Because wherever you look around, like the news, you read the news, you watch the videos of what's happening all around the world, those are all hurt people hurting others. None of this, and I honestly deeply believe this, there would be no wars, no crime, no pain, no people hurting other human beings if they were not hurt once upon a time themselves. It's only a small percentage of those who are like genetically, like born with genetical disadvantage, like with like sociopaths and psychopaths that are genetically wired to hurt others. Like, I don't even know if that's 1% of population or even less. 99.999% of what you can see happening today in the world, it's because of this trauma that we got as kids, and then even got deeper in it as we were growing up. What you're doing here with your family is stopping a part of it. I don't have any like savior complex. I'm not here to save the world. But every woman I help, I know we are saving her entire family and the future generations. I cannot protect you from life throwing bad stuff at you and sending bad, hurting people into your life. But I can help you clean up and build yourself up so that you can build your kids up, so that no matter what comes their way, it's not going to break them. It's not going to damage them. It's not going to hurt them. They will not have to carry it as a pain and trauma for the rest of their life. They don't. Because trauma is not what happened to you. Trauma is how you deal with it and what support you get in healing it. Okay? That's why this work is so important. We can't save the world, but we can start with ourselves. And if you want to start doing that, I'm here for all of it. So just let me know. I'm going to let you go, busy mom. I hope this was a good food for thought, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Sending you a big hug to you and your parents. Bye.